Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with another exciting hobby tutorial. We have been very generously gifted an advanced copy of the new Primarch Lionel Jonson miniature to get painted up for you guys in a video. Hopefully I'll be able to dispel some of the fears you may have about getting such a detailed miniature painted up and on the tabletop. Before I get into the video, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of my active patrons. Without you guys, I would not be able to keep the lights on or the cameras rolling. If you guys are interested in getting involved in my Patreon, there's links to it below. Benefits include private Discord server, you can hang out with me on a daily basis and talk hobby, and an extra video every single week. So that's 52 extra videos a year, so there has never been a better time to get involved. Okay guys, without further ado, let's get painting the line. So here is the lion in the flesh, well, at least part of him. A model as complicated as this, of course, we are going to do a couple of sub-assemblies just to make it easier for us throughout the painting process. All the parts were sprayed black, a nice solid coat, and then we gave a grey sear overshadow coat to everything else, just like a zenithal from above, catching about 90% of the model, except for the shield. The shield is mostly gold with some red trim and stuff, so I just left that black. I've got all four heads here, but I will only be painting the helmeted heads in this video. The unhelmeted heads are going to be saved for a Patreon video. So if you're interested in seeing how I paint the lion's head, subscribe to my Patreon and find it there. The first thing we're going to do is jump onto Black Templar Contrast and get a nice base coat on all of the armor parts of this miniature. The armor color is very deceptive as to what color the new lion's armor is. It seems to be jet black, but with all the edges and trim done in a light green or a dark green, which I suppose makes sense. It's kind of a mix between the old and the new styles of armor. For me, I'm not going to be doing any of the green edging or any of that kind of madness. I'm going to go with the traditional black armor, which is the lion's basically personal heritage, his personal colors. And I'm going to stick with that for this tutorial. I'm going to try and make this as easy to follow as possible so that anyone out there can follow along and get a nice tabletop standard Lionel Jonson ready for a few games. Now, 80% of this model is going to be an ugly stage. I swear to God, it is just awful looking until we start pulling all the colors together at the very end. So bear with me throughout the entire thing. Try not to click off it, thinking that I'm going nowhere with this, because even me personally, going through it 50, 60, 70% of the way through, I thought I was making a mess of this whole thing, but it did turn out quite nice at the end. We jumped over to Egros Dunes and got a nice base coat on any cloth material that is supposed to be cream. So this is the underskirt part thing. I don't know what all the different layers of fabric are called. And the inside of the outer cloak is also supposed to be done in that cream color. I went for all the purity seals and tassels on any other parts of the miniature. Got a nice coat of that on as well. We then jumped over to Dark Angel's green contrast and used this for all of the green robes. So his second skirt layer thing, the outside of that is going to be green. In fact, the inside of their one was cream, but I went for a solid green for that. And then went for obviously the greenness properly on the outside of the large cloak. Sure, there's a better way to be naming all of these different parts, but I have no idea what they're all called. After that, I went back to Egros Dunes after I got the green done on the outer cloak, just to throw a quick coat across the lion pelt going across his back. You could have done this the same stage as the other bits, but I was afraid I would hit it with the green. Or I forgot about it until now. Shh. Okay, with all of the cloth and fur parts, it's time to go on to the Gorgunta fur stage, which is just going to be for his leather belt. It's another quick and simple addition to the miniature. Gorgunta fur makes an absolutely stunning base coat for any leather work. I lean on it more and more as time goes on. Retributor armor gold was then taken in and used for all of the gold on this miniature. Unlike Gulliman, who took me over 2.5 hours to do all of the gold trim, the Lionel Jonson is not nearly as ornate. He's much more baroque, much more utilitarian. He is just a knight, a soldier, a warrior, so he doesn't go in for all of the kind of crazy pomp. He's not used as a propaganda figure like Gulliman is, the Return of the Emperor, if you will. So I very carefully went around and painted all the parts that are gold. So the trims on his shoulder pad, the lion's motif head on his shoulder pad, And other bits and pieces, the pommel of his new sword. And any other bits and pieces you find on any of the other parts. So the shield, of course, needs to get done with a solid coat of gold. The Watchers in the Dark holding the sheath of the sword need to get done. They have gold trim parts on those. Very ornate sword, which we still don't know where he got from, which is driving me slightly insane. Where did he get his new armor and sword? I need to know. Like I said, this shield just got sprayed black, so we got to go over with a heavy overbrush of gold to get a nice solid base coat ready for the rest of the painting. This is, of course, the Emperor's shield. This is a new thing that they've added in previous videos. They talked about the idea of every single returning Primarch inheriting something of the Emperor's, just as a little flamboyant flare, like a flush, something to tie them in with the father. And he got the shield. Guilliman, of course, getting the sword. Volupus Pink was used as the base coat for all of the robes of the Watchers. Mysterious little critters that we still don't know a hell of a lot about. Hopefully with the Lion playing a more substantial role in the story moving forward, we'll learn a little bit more about them. Flesh Tears Red was used for the wings on his helmet. Very ornate helmet. I'm a big fan of this. All of his heads are really nice. It's actually a super difficult thing to decide which one of them you want to stick onto the miniature. I'm not sure which one I will use the first time I field him in battle. The same Flesh Tears Red was then used to paint the paneling of the shield, trying to stay away from all the gold trim and the lion's head, you know, clutching of the lion's head, the hawk's head, eagle's head, clutching the snake. Just leave that alone. Lead Belcher was then brought in, and some terrible cameramanship was used, as I honestly couldn't keep the model in frame. I was getting excited about the wash stage and getting this model looking as a solid piece. So anyway, the trim and detail on the pistol were done, and of course the blade of the sword was done as well. But as you can see, the sword is off camera as I'm painting it, as I'm a genius. Silly me. One thing I'm not going to be showing you guys in the video is how the base is painted. Every single person will base their army differently, depending on how they want their army to look. So mine is just going to be my usual basing scheme, the Martian scheme. So he ties in with all my other Astromilitary armed forces. They all map together as one cohesive force if you want to play large scale games. With the addition of the silver on the model, all of the base coats are now on it. So what I'm going to do is jump over to Seraphim Sepia and paint this over the entire armor. We're going to shade the entire thing, head to toe, cloak, metallics, fur, everything is going to get done. This is going to act as a really nice shade for all the different parts of the model. Sealing in the contrast, adding a layer of protection and giving us a really nice place to move on to when we go to layer the model up. Seraphim Sepia is definitely my go-to shade for so many different projects. Here you can see the shield all base coated in. And as we start to add the sepia, you can see it doing really nice shade work on all those parts, with absolute minimum effort required. Okay, I finished basing the miniature and waited for the shade to dry. And now it's time to layer this beast up. So I'm going to start by using the Corvus Black paint. And I'm going to highlight up all of the lion's armor. Black armor has always been a little bit of a struggle for me. I didn't really know where to go or what to do with it. I do like how my Black Templar armor worked, but I thought not to go with that for this guy. I want him to be a little bit more distinguished, a little bit kind of darker, more mysterious. I would love to add some chipping damage and some weathering, but I figured that this beautiful new suit of armor is wrought from stronger stuff than standard Space Marine armor and is not going to be as prone to damage. I haven't seen Guilliman look anything but pristine since he showed up, so I figured he's made of something similar. Maybe Belisarius Call made the suit of armor for the lion, but I'm still, like I said, not too sure. After Corvus Black was used to highlight the entire suit of armor, we get a nice smooth black coat. And now it's time to move on to all of the robes. So we're going to start with Xandri Dust and layer up all of those bits we used Aegros Dunes on previously. We're aiming for a nice, clean, smooth coat, but we want to leave the Aegros Dunes shaded with sepia and all the recesses and cracks and folds of the fabric. Just add a little bit of kind of distinction, a bit of depth to the model. If you just do one solid coat of Xandri Dust, it's going to look extremely flat and boring. So try your best to get in there. Like you can see all of the folds that are in the fabric, and you can see where all the shadows are, all the dark points. Just leave those as the dark points. Paint all the bits that the light is catching with that Zandri dust. This is where the model starts to come together and look a little bit nicer. The cloak was just looking so hideous up until this point that I was starting to worry that it wasn't going to come together at the end, and it was just going to continue to look kind of awful. But like I said, as we followed through, we managed to get a really nice inner cloak, which then spurred me on to want to start working on the green cloak. Being super careful not to hit any of the green or black parts as we do layer up that Zandri dust. Now, in my humble opinion, I believe the green cloak is actually one of the main focal points of the entire model. Like the Emperor's shield and that, I think, are the two main points. Then depending on which head, if you give them the winged helmet, I think that's obviously quite a focal point as well. So with the green cloak, I definitely spent a lot of time layering up. So we started with Caliban green. And like I said, with the green parts, we are following the highlight parts. So all the lines, all of the folds, we're going to highlight, and you can see where all those shadows are. We're going to try and keep those nice and dark. But having said that, that's still too dark a coat of paint. This is just to basically add your layer. We are going to highlight. We're going to jump up to quite a stark green and add a really nice pop of color to the model. To do that, we're actually going to jump up to Warpstone Glow, which may seem kind of crazy, but bear with me. I'm going to go slightly lighter on the brush with this, more of a feathering technique, and really just only aiming for some of the higher points to add in that kind of natural highlight. You will see when I'm finished highlighting this what I mean by this step, seeing the contrast and depth of the fabric, and seeing how quickly this part becomes a real focal point of the miniature. And it's one of the nicest parts of the model, which is nice. That's facing backwards, so as it's playing and it's being pushed across the battlefield, you're looking at the nicest part of the miniature. Yeah, I always thought you should paint the back of your miniatures the nicest. That's what you're going to spend most of the time seeing anyway. So this green is of course very bright and vibrant, so it will require probably 2 coats in some areas to stop it being kind of streaky and natty looking. This is just me getting used to where the color should go. And of course, don't forget the hooded helm as well. I would have done the unhelmeted hooded head as well, but like I said, I'm saving that for my Patreon video for next week, so stick around and sign up for that. I'm going to be leaning on an old White Dwarf article, which involves adding grey into skin tones to give you a more weathered and aged look, so hopefully that turns out well. After that, we moved over to a pure white color. I tend to jump and grab the Pro Acryl Bold Titanium White for this. That's my personal white of choice. And I'm going to highlight up all of the white parts of the miniature. So we're going to start with the winged sword in the center of his chest, the symbol on his shoulder pad, and any other bits and pieces that need to be highlighted like that. Any of the designs, his knee pad. That's pretty much it, to be honest. As you can see, I'm taking my time and just adding a quick brush stroke to basically each individual feather. This may seem tedious, but it's actually quite a quick process. After that, I took some Zandri dust and added a touch of that bold titanium white into that, just to kind of pump up the color just a little bit. And once again, went in and feathered in the lion pelt across his back. I just wanted to brighten it up just a little bit. So what I did was I hit it with this, which is obviously quite bright and vibrant. But then what I'm going to do is throw a Cerebrum Sepia back over the top of that, a thin down one. I'm basically working Cerebrum Sepia from a wet palette, so it's basically like an extra glaze. And I just want to tint that lion pelt again. And you'll see that all of the kind of contrast and different color showing through. And I think it turned out quite well for a quick and easy and effective way of doing the lion pelt on him. From here, we're going to jump up to Ironbreaker and use this to highlight all of the gold and silver parts of the model. So you can see when it comes to the gold parts, I'm just doing my touch highlight on it. Stabbing in at sharp corners and a few lines along the edges. This is a very quick technique, and it really does punch up gold and silver quite nicely. I'm a big fan of highlighting gold with silver. I think it really does add something to it. Technique is something that I've enjoyed a lot more than I used to do when I tried to use brighter golds and stuff. Of course, not forgetting the gold trim that runs down his cape. And of course the beautiful Emperor's Shield. I'm going to spend the most amount of time and being the most careful highlighting this part. It's one of those things I was talking about where when someone picks up this model or scoots down and looks at your model, they're going to want to see the Emperor's Shield. What does it look like? Where did it come from? So spending a little bit extra time on that will make all the difference. Screamer Pink was then used to highlight the robes of the Watchers. You can see that the Watchers are now basically mostly painted. As I was doing like the black parts of the line, I was doing the black parts on the Watchers. And as I was, you know what I mean? Every stage that I was doing the gold got done on the gold, silver got done on silver, brown on the brown. Mephiston Red was then used just like the white was to highlight the winged helmet. And as you can see, like I said before, it's just one stroke per feather. It only takes 1 or 2 seconds. And I think I highlighted the entire feathered helm in 2 or 3 minutes. To tell you the truth, I didn't actually do it on the back because it's kind of steeped in shadow, and I think it suits it even better. So here is the lion pretty much finished up. I really like how he looks currently. I'm kind of expecting the model, trying to find any flaws or any bits where I think I need to add more paint. But I'm trying to remind myself that this is Mediocre Hobbies. This is an idea that I'm going to show you guys how to get a model painted easily and effectively. There will be a million channels out there showing you how to paint this guy up to Envy Metal standard or competition standard. And of course, if you want to go and attempt that, you're more than willing. But that intimidates a lot of us painters. So I prefer these simple and effective guides which help you alleviate your fears about getting this model. You can feel like you can actually get them and get them painted to a nice standard and in your collection. All these parts are now, like I said, tidied up, and I'm going to put them together as a final piece. I love how the Emperor's Shield turned out. His backpack is also quite stunning. And you put all the parts together, you're left with this. Like I said, for the video, I didn't add any chips or damage or weathering, but I would love to add just a few chips to his armor, and then a little bit of weathering powder around his feet and his knees maybe scuffed along the bottom of his cloak where he's been striding through. I'm going to show you a couple of high definition pictures to finish it off, to show you what my line looks like. It was actually featured in a Warhammer Community article, so I'm quite proud of that. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you consider picking yourselves up a line. As a stunning model to have in anybody's collection. Okay guys, and there we have it. One painted Lionel Jonson ready to lead the Dark Angels, both fallen and unfallen, into battle. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you give it a like. More likes equals it pushed out to more people see it, more the channel grows, so on and so forth. If you're not already subscribed to my channel as well, it would mean the world to me. It took 2 seconds out of your day to hit that subscribe button. About 60 to 70% of the people watching my videos are not subscribed, so what are you guys doing? Hit that button. If you have any questions about the Primarch or anything I've done in the video here today, put it in the comments below and I will get back to each and every one of you guys. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one.